Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Zen HQ in Rochdale, um, and welcome to our inaugural Partner Playback webinar. This is the first of a series of quarterly webinars we'll be running, essentially to bridge the gap between what has gone on in the past, which has been newsletters, email comms, and at the other end of the scale, our partner updates in our annual partner event. Thanks to everybody who's submitted questions so far. We'll get to those in due course. I'd encourage you all to chip in with questions as you think of them during the event. You'll see on your screen there is a Q&A box. I'd be grateful if you could drop anything you'd like me to ask my colleagues in there, and we'll do our best to get those answered. Of course, we'll be sharing the recording and any questions we don't get to at the end. So just feel free to chuck everything that comes to mind in that slot. So this morning, as you can see, I'm joined by a couple of colleagues. Steve Warburton, our Managing Director in Partner here in Zen, and Andy Sayle, who's our Portfolio Broadband Manager. So between the two of them, hopefully we'll have all the answers to all the questions you throw at us. But first of all, we're going to give you a brief update on a number of topics, a couple of topical things to start us off. So Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Nick.
April price rises. Let's start there.
Start with an easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so morning everyone, and firstly, big thank you for joining the webinar this morning. As we touched on at the partner event, really keen to keep you updated on a kind of quarterly basis, so yeah, big thanks for joining. So yeah, in terms of the price increases, so it was towards the end of December, we received our price increases through from both Openreach and BT Wholesale. And we have the tough task actually, and Andy and the team working together with us to kind of work out what do we do in terms of those price increases by way of pass through. So what we've tried to do is to balance the increases on the kind of copper products, which are gradually going to be removed from the network in the coming years. So we apply some slightly bigger increases there, and then more modest increases onto the Sayle and FTTP products to recognise that's where that technology is going. So we try to strike the right balance. Obviously, price increases are never welcome, but unfortunately, we need to pass those costs through from our supply chain to our partners. So try to get the right balance.
Yeah, a busy time. Andy, would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think any of us enjoy passing on price increases, and I certainly don't enjoy the letter I get through from Openreach at the end of each year, and then thinking how are we going to cover these costs. Fortunately, those increases are pretty huge in terms of how much our bill goes up from Openreach. So we don't have the luxury of absorbing it all, but we do our best to, I guess, temper the impact for our partners and customers. So yeah, not fun, but unfortunately it's necessary.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, and what about the NPS survey, Steve? We've recently conducted the latest version of that.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's really important to us, those surveys. We're really keen to kind of find out what you all think of the service, things we can improve on, etc. Obviously, we run those quarterly, so I think the latest survey went out a few weeks ago. I'd encourage any of you not a chance to fill it in to complete it. I think the deadline's in the next couple of days. So yeah, do fill it in, give us your feedback, and we'll, as always, be sharing the outcome of that survey in terms of the actions we're going to take. I think we've got a kind of "you said we did" feature in our newsletter where we try to share some of that information. So yeah, try and fill it in if you can.
Great, thanks, Steve. Let's move on to some portfolio updates. So for those of you that attend our partner events, that's always a kind of cornerstone of what we do, and part of the driver for these quarterly sessions was to kind of help you guys set expectations with your customers about what's coming down the road from a technology perspective. So all things, if we had endless amounts of resource, there's lots and lots of things we'd like to do. We obviously have to prioritise, like you guys out there. But there's a couple of things that are kind of on the immediate horizon. Do you want to kind of update on, well, the two things that are evident, the multi-gig broadband and 4G backup, our old favourite. Where do you want to start?
I'll start with multi-gig, if that's all right. So yeah, latest update on that, and obviously I touched on it at the partner event. That was something that was going to be coming along. So OpenReach announced, I think a few weeks ago actually, that they're going to bring that live on the 1st of April. So that's their kind of official launch date. It's been in trial for about a year, I think, Andy, hasn't it? It's been in trial
probably
for a while.
about that time. Yeah.
So 1st of April, OpenReach go live, and then we've got our development lined up to deliver from May. So our aim is to have the new 1.2 gig and 1.8 gig speeds live from May. It's worth just touching back on the challenge around the development, and it's probably worth saying we've had the vast majority of our development resource tied up on one-touch switching. They've been working really hard on that. It's been a massive piece of work. We're actually on track to have that delivered by I think it's the 14th of March, Andy?
That's right, yeah, 14th.
Which is in line with Tosco's original date. As you might have seen in the press recently, that date's now going to get delayed. I think, unfortunately, the whole industry's not ready. But from Zen's perspective, our development resource will be delivering that by 14th March, and then that allows us to then take that resource and deploy it onto other projects. The first of those being multi-gig, which will be, as I say, May's a target. So, do you want to share a bit more about multi-gig, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So multi-gig. So those of you not aware, OpenReach obviously have got FTTP available across the country. They've been trialling new 1.8 and 1.2 gigabit per second speed profiles. Both got 120 megabits per second upstream. We hope to be the first wholesaler in the UK offering those new OpenReach speeds. And we will give you access to that before we offer it to any of our direct customers. So you guys will get first access to it and be able to be market leading, I guess, be out there offering the fastest connections on OpenReach's network. It's been, as I say, the systems development work starts as soon as this one-touch switching project finishes, as Steve was just mentioning. But over the last year or so, and we spoke about this at the partner event, we've been doing a lot of work on our network, and that's enabled us to be able to bring this to market much more quickly than we would have otherwise been able to do. We've got lots of capacity in the network now, and so we can get it out there, and and it gives you a real opportunity to differentiate your service to somebody that's to your competitors, effectively. Yeah.
Okay. And backup.
Yeah, 4G backup. Yeah, so been obviously lots of talk about 4G backup for a number of years, and I'm pleased to say that we're now starting to make some meaningful progress. So again, obviously dev resource assigned to one-touch switching, that's now coming free. So our aim is that we're going to try and deliver 4G backup in a series of iterations, so over a number of phases, with the aim to have that delivered by August. So between now and August, we'll start that delivery, and as I say, we'll release it in a series of phases. So delighted to be able to start talking about dates for delivery with some confidence now. I know it's been a long time coming, and can't wait to get that released. And I know many of the partners have been really keen for us to launch that. Again, do you want to share a bit more, Andy, about how it's going to work?
Yeah. So 4G backup. So the way it'll work is we'll deliver that. First of all, it'll be our layer 3 product, so all of our resellers that are using our ICP platform will be able to get access to that. There'll be a small onboarding process where we'll provide you with SIM cards and set you up a pool for those SIM cards to connect to. That will allow you to manage the amount of the usage that your customers are having. The idea is that IP addresses will be retained, so it'll fail over, and customer won't need to reconfigure services that are accessing remotely accessing the connection. So if you've got things hosted in the customer's premises or VPNs or whatever, you'll get an amount of data will be added to the pool for each circuit that you enable 4G for. If one of your customers goes down, they'll be able to use any of the data in that pool. If no customers go down, or if the other customers don't go down, so you've got, let's say, 1,000 customers. There's a terabyte of data in there. It doesn't matter how much usage one customer uses, they'll be able to dip into the usage available from the other customers. So it helps helps you minimise your costs of bandwidth, because obviously 4G bandwidth can be quite expensive. It's quite expensive for us, and so we'll need to pass some of that cost on. So we're designing a product in a way that will minimise the costs for you. So it's particularly because it's for a backup product, there'll be, usage is low, but when a customer does fail over, there might be a little spike. So the design of the product, and anyone wants to talk about it in more detail, we can set up one-to-one calls, but the design of the product will minimise the bandwidth usage on any particular SIM card, and then subsequently the cost of delivering the service to your customers.
Great, thanks, gents. Yeah, this and thanks to you for starting to submit some questions. As seeing those coming through around the portfolio, we'll absolutely come to those shortly. But while we're on the topic of kind of the roadmap, I suppose, beyond those kind of two priorities in the next 6 months, I know Ethernet was kind of, is there in the wings. What's the latest there, Steve?
Yeah, so Ethernet is we're still absolutely committed to the plan to invest in our Ethernet platform. So where we are with Ethernet is we've got some great insight and feedback from you all. So thanks to those of you that came along post the partner event and shared with us what you'd like to see by way of requirements. I know Andy's had conversations direct with a number of partners about what they'd like to see. So we've got a really good, clear idea now as to what we need to develop. We're actually going to invest in some additional developers to allow us to then do the work. So we're actually going to create a new team of developers. That team will be dedicated to building that Ethernet platform specifically for that set of requirements, because we've already got people allocated to multi-gig, 4G, etc. We're going to need some more resource to be able to deliver that. So it'll be later in the year, I think realistically, before we start to see things coming through. But the commitment is there that we're going to invest in the resource to deliver the functionality that we know that our partners are looking for. Okay,
thanks, Steve. Okay, what I think we'll do now is we'll drill down in some of these questions coming through. There's some common themes, unsurprisingly, but let's start with one from the floor, as they say. Talking about launching new products, one of the things we've not touched upon so far is virtual firewalls. Again, a topic of discussion increasingly in the business. Where are we at with that?
Yeah, I can take that one. Give you a bit of an update. So the infrastructure is now in our DC. So we've got a virtualized firewall infrastructure in our DC. We've got some pilot customers on it. It's live. It's working and going well. So the aim is to bring that solution to market in the partner channel in July. So that's the goal, is to have that service ready for our partners in July. And I know, Nick, you've been speaking to some of our teams about that too. So if you want to add a little bit more colour.
Yeah, absolutely. So conversations I've been having are about catalog of services from within that kind of security umbrella. So we'll be kind of documenting that. We're obviously looking across our 4 divisions, but from a partner perspective, we need to kind of put some context to the relevant services, because we recognise there's some areas where you guys have your own expertise and experience. So we need to kind of find that kind of position with some of these things. But we'll be in touch, I suppose, with those that have expressed interest in those security, broadly speaking, products over the next month. So yeah, an exciting opportunity there for us to kind of progress, and we'll share more with you when we can. Okay. Price increases has raised a few questions. So, first question on that: Are inflationary price increases in our sector here to stay, even if inflation hits the government's target of 2%? What do you think?
I'll give you an initial view, and Andy's got some thoughts on this as well. So I think my own view is that yes, I do think we'll continue to see price increase going forward. Obviously, as inflation reduces, I think that could see a reduction in the level of increase. However, I think the reality is that Openreach, which is where a lot of that stems from, are having to recover costs of investment in the network, investment in increased usage, in just other additional costs that they're incurring. So I think we'll continue to see that going forward. I think the only way that could change is a competitive environment. So I know obviously Virgin Media announced recently that they plan to bring that kind of wholesale their network. So that could cause some competition environment that again could change that picture. But I think my own view is I think it is here to stay, albeit hopefully at lower levels going forward. I do think we'll continue to see the kind of bigger increases though on the copper products, because Openreach do want us to get off those products. So as we predicted at previous partner events, I do see that is likely to be the trend going forward. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Andy.
No, I think that's spot on. I think you've covered it all really well there. That at the moment, I guess our sector has seen a lot of investment, whether that's from through debt or private investment, money being put in by the government. But ultimately, there's a lot to pay back, I guess there's other external pressures through inflation that everybody needs to recover. I guess salaries are going up, cost of power, the cost of everything else is expensive, and so as that comes down, the increases will probably come down as well. I would like to think so, but I think they'll be around for a while. The current Ofcom regulation, the WF2MR, runs for another couple of years. So the rules might change and that might have an impact in some way, but at least for the next couple of years there won't be any rule changes, and I expect Openreach will be flowing through the increases in the same way for that period, and then I expect there'll be something similar afterwards, not that different anyway.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Probably best to start with you on this one as well, Steve. Again, on the subject of the price increases, some people might be aware that Steve wears two hats in the business as the MD of our consumer division as well. One of our partners has asked, why don't we pass price increases on to our consumer market? It feels like we pay so you can put a good face onto the market.
Yeah, so that's a good question. Good question. So yeah, thanks for the question. I think in our consumer business we have what we call a contract price promise. So for the duration of the contract term, we don't pass on any price increases. However, when customers come out of that contract price promise, we do actually pass on price increases, and we will be doing so. For our perspective, it's about whether a customer's in contract or out of contract, and we try to take the same approach in our partner business. So, for example, on Ethernet, despite some of our competitors choosing to pass on the price increases in contract, we're actually only passing them on out of contract. So we try to take a blanket approach there. Having said that, I do accept that for a number of years we had the price for life commitment that we had in place in our consumer division, and that's something that meant that we didn't pass on price increases because we kind of were bound to this price for life guarantee. But that's something we changed just over a year ago now to move to our sort of contract price promise. So definitely keen that we're consistent across our different business units.
Yeah. No, it's a contentious one, but there's a rationale there which is hopefully evident in that answer. Andy, one for you on the subject of contracts. Steve mentioned there. Question here. Whilst a 30-day term for connectivity is a great advantage in many cases, there are instances where clients are happy to commit to longer terms if better prices are available. Most other providers offer this and lower prices. Is this something Zen may look at if it helps a partner gain a competitive edge?
Yeah, potentially we can look at it. We did have longer contract options available up until a couple of years ago, and all the feedback that we had from the partner channel was that everyone would prefer shorter term contracts and more flexibility. Now, if that's changed, we'd be happy to look at it again. I guess it's difficult to come up with something that works for everybody, but we're willing to look at things on an individual basis. And we've done. We're happy to look at specific cases if it helps partners win business and that benefits us at the end of the day. So yeah, we'd look at it if need be. Not a problem.
Okay. So yeah, reach out. Let's have a conversation on that one, I think is the message. This is one where perhaps we're certainly guilty of in this industry of definitions. One-touch switching. Somebody's asked, "What's one-touch switching?"
Okay.
A fair question. Can we just demystify that one?
So one-touch switching. I'll probably pick this up if you want.
Go ahead, Andy. Yeah.
One-touch switching, also known as the bane of my life. So one-touch switching. So everyone will be familiar with the current switching process, which allows customers to switch from one provider on Openreach's network to another provider. It takes a couple of weeks, and it's pretty much seamless. One-touch switching builds on that and introduces a new way of being able to switch from one provider to another, but not just within Openreach's network. So you could switch from between altnets, between Openreach and Virgin Media. It's not restricted to just Openreach, and because it's going across different networks, there's a new sort of integration system that's called the TOTSCO Hub. TOTSCO is an independent. Well, it's a body made up of industry, so it's of all the different service providers across industry. BT, Zen, Gamma are a part of it, and it's together it operates a hub which allows the coordination of switching from one provider to another. So it was meant to go live about a year ago, but because of the complexity of getting it organised across all of industry, it's taken a bit longer. It was pushed back to March this year, and then just before Christmas it was delayed again, so that we're now just waiting on a new launch date. At the moment it's just consumer, only impacts consumer, which I guess is why some of our partners on the call are not familiar with it if they're in the business market. But the expectation is that one-touch switching will expand to businesses over the coming year or two. Time period to be defined. But ultimately it's a new way of switching from one provider to another. It should be advantageous to consumers because it makes it much simpler for them to switch between networks, not just providers on networks. But it's quite complicated for providers because we have to integrate with a new central hub, and we've got different timelines and different processes, so it's quite time consuming, just getting all the different providers, all the different moving pieces working together, but hopefully that'll be finished off for consumers soon, and we can forget about it for a little while till the business side comes in.
I guess it's worth adding, Andy, the aspiration from an Ofcom point of view is that they make it easier for customers to switch between networks. And I think if you take examples of perhaps Virgin or some of the altnets, it's actually quite difficult today to switch between providers and avoid downtime. I think today it's you quite often end up in a bit of downtime. So that's certainly Ofcom's sort of aspiration. So hopefully it delivers on that goal.
Yeah, and I think that you're absolutely right. It's all about encouraging switching, and I think Ofcom want to encourage more people to switch, so that there's things like loyalty tax, so putting loyal customers' prices up above those of new customers. Try and dissuade that from happening by making it easier for people to switch between networks. Obviously Zen, we don't do that, so when we put our out of contract customer prices up, it's up to where new customers are paying, so we keep it fair, but not everyone else is working on the same terms as we are, and this is trying to make the market more competitive and to give more power to the consumer.
Okay, and one-touch switching has certainly raised a few more questions, actually. So again, a little bit of clarification. You've touched on this a little. Is one-touch switching just for internet broadband, or does this cover SIP trunks, telephone numbers, and NGNs, non-geographics?
So it's basically voice and broadband services that are in the consumer market. So if a consumer has a VoIP telephone number, it covers that as well. Yeah.
Okay. And how do we safeguard against predatory switching? So, slamming. How does the process protect against that?
Yeah. So, the way one-touch switching works is that when a switch is initiated, the hub alerts the losing provider more or less instantly, and the losing provider then sends out an implication of switching message to their customer. So they would send that out via an email or an SMS message to tell the customer that a switch has been initiated by another provider. Like if you've not done that, like heads up, something's happening. And then it also says, well, if you have meant to do that, these are the implications. So there's these early termination fees, or this service that you've got over here won't work the same way anymore. And so the customer not only knows that it's happening, but also knows they've got a full picture of the implications of initiating that switch.
Okay. I'm jumping back here. Apologies. I suppose it's the way the questions come through don't necessarily help aid the flow. But so apologies for jumping back onto pricing. But as the question, we're live, as they say. So should we be expecting more frequent price increases from OpenReach? For example, quarterly, as we get closer to the switch off? Thoughts?
Yeah, good question. That. Yeah. So yeah, great question actually. My view, very unlikely. So I think the way OpenReach do their pricing policy, accounting, etc., is that'll be on an annual basis. Also, the sheer amount of price, movements that they go through. So thousands of product lines. I think it'll make it quite challenging for them to do that on anything more than annual basis. From speaking to some of the senior people at OpenReach, so I think it's very unlikely they'd move beyond the kind of annual exercise that they do today. I think never say never, because obviously they want us off that copper network. But I think it's unlikely, in my view.
Yeah, and some of the regulations that are in place sort of will prevent that on some products. So most products, OpenReach, are restricted to a single annual increase that's linked to inflation. It's linked to CPI from October, so that's published in November. So yeah, that's not across the board all the products, but it is a big piece of work for them, and I don't envisage that changing for the next couple of years.
Only thing I would add is that I meet with OpenReach on a quarterly basis, meet with Clive and the rest of the directors at OpenReach. First thing they ask me at the beginning of every meeting is, how are you getting on with moving your copper customers to SGE and FTTP? So I think the price increases or not, I think the emphasis on moving our copper circuits is certainly there.
Yeah, okay. And on a kind of similar vein, one of our partners asked about views on contracting for longer periods to protect against price increases. So I suppose that works for our price increases to our partners, and then maybe the partners' price increases to their customers. Any views on that? That kind of forward banking in terms of contracts?
Well, I guess I could 100% understand why someone would ask for that, and I guess if we were to do that, we'd need to take a view on what we think is going to happen to our costs over that contract period, because we're going to still see the increases. So we would need to think, well, where would we price it so that we can ensure that that price is still sustainable halfway through the contract or as we're approaching the end of the contract. So yeah, it's something we'd be open to doing, but I guess while inflation is unpredictable, we'd probably end up paying. You'd probably pay more than you would need to, so that we can protect and make sure that we're not selling it at less than cost or whatever, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, Nick, so I think it's about risk appetite. So if you look at our price increases that we just recently faced, they've ranged from 4% to 10%. In terms of the increases we've incurred. Last year it ranged from 5% to 15%. So, I can imagine the conversation with our finance people to say, okay, well, where's that going to be? And trying to predict the future effectively. I think it's about risk appetite and about trying to take a kind of view on the future pricing, input cost increases.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not a no, but Steve summed it up well.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Slight change of topic. City Fibre. Any news and availability of City Fibre services out to our partners?
Yeah, I can give you an initial view on that. So I think, as we touched on already, really, so priority is multi-gig, 4G backup, virtual firewalls, Ethernet. So we want to see those things get delivered. I think in line with our partner requirements and feedback we received. City Fibre is on the roadmap, so we do plan to bring that to market. At the moment, the available footprint to business premises for City Fibre is quite limited.
Yeah, it's very
so our view is, and we've done some checks on this, looking at if you take our availability data, what proportion of all of our availability checks, could actually go through onto City Fibre's network, and it was less than 1%. So that's the challenge, really, is that actually the footprint just isn't there today. Now that is going to change over the next 3 or 4 years as the footprint grows. So we will reach a stage where that makes sense. I think Ethernet's a slightly different story. They've got City Fibre have an Ethernet footprint that's quite attractive. So as part of the work we do on Ethernet, it's likely we'll bring City Fibre in as an additional Ethernet carrier. Anything to add there, Andy?
100% right. City Fibre's business premises coverage is really low, and I guess we've got so many things we want to do. We can't do them all at once, so we're trying to do the things that offer the most value to partners first, and then still do the other things, but get through the most valuable stuff first, and then we'll get through the list.
Okay, fair enough. Speaking of network providers, OpenReach, last couple of questions actually. We've got the WR switch off. What's your view on how that will, in terms of service support, OpenReach performance on delivery, etc. Do you see any kind of implications once we get beyond the switch off in terms of how OpenReach deliver its core products? Any views on that?
Give an initial thought. I think, as we know, the reason they're moving off copper and onto this fibre network is because genuinely the equipment's it's very old. The network's very old now. It's difficult to get parts. The engineers that have built those networks, that maintain those networks, they're genuinely retiring, and they're not being replaced by people to do that work. So I think that's the driver behind that move away from copper and onto fibre. Clearly, there's a big investment going into building that full fibre network. Talking to OpenReach on this, they definitely see a reduced fault rate, they see improved reliability, they see improved scalability. So I think from a service perspective, you should expect to see a more reliable, more robust service on fibre than you will on copper. I think, they're still going to maintain both those networks, so there shouldn't be any degradation between the two. You shouldn't be seeing copper performance being, suffering as a result of fibre being rolled out. They're still delivering copper services. So again, I'd expect the service still to be where it needs to be there. So I think if there's any concerns about whether copper's performing as it should, all the resource being diverted on full fibre, then please share that feedback with us, because certainly our expectation is they maintain both those networks to a high standard throughout its duration. We shouldn't be seeing any kind of degradation on the copper network. So.
Yeah. And having said that, though, I guess once the WLR network is switched off, that's just one less thing for them to do, and so naturally it's got to be easier to maintain one network than two, albeit they're doing their very best to ensure that the copper network continues to be reliable. But yeah, absolutely. Okay, great stuff. Well, I suppose we're coming up to the kind of end of our time. There's a couple of things I just wanted to kind of check in on. Basically, from the partner event, Richard was on stage. I don't know if you may have caught that at our partner event in Leeds in November. He was talking about AI, something he's very passionate about. Progress there. What we're seeing around the business, and what are your thoughts about that in the partner division, perhaps in the future?
Yeah, great question, Nick. Yeah, so in terms of AI, we've managed to get our live chatbot scaled up post the partner event. So Zenny is the name of our AI chatbot, our internal name, and Zenny's been handling about 3,000 chats per day, 24/7. Interestingly, about 50% of those chats have been handled completely autonomously by the AI chatbot, so it's required no human interaction whatsoever. The other 50% has been passed to an agent in some cases to provide some help to the customer. So I think it's incredible that every day 3,000 of these chats are just happening in the background, supporting customers 24/7, 365. We've made some good progress there. I think it's a good example of the technology in action, because there's a lot of hype about AI. And when you talk to people, it's like, well, give me a use case, give me something that's been done, delivered, and it's making a difference. And I think from Zen's perspective, that's a really good example of something that's making a real difference to our business every day. Looking beyond that, we're planning to create a kind of knowledge-based worker, which can provide some coaching support to some of our agents, because obviously we spend a lot of time bringing on new people, and they need help and support. So is there a chat agent we can, an AI tool we can use to be able to support those people? And I think further down the line, we're also going to look at, could we do something with AI that takes away some of the manual activity that we do daily? So it's doing things in the background to free up our people to do more valuable work. So yeah, it's really exciting, and Richard is excited as ever about the technology. He's really enthusiastic about it. He's delighted with what we've achieved so far, and keen to see more to come.
Great stuff, great stuff. One more question's come in with your name in it, Andy. It's the fibre availability question. Talk about the acceleration of that kind of deployment, OpenReach, I suppose, specifically. It feels like customers are being penalised for their location. What you've used there?
Yeah, I think OpenReach are rolling out FTTP more quickly than anyone really, certainly in this country, and as quick as probably anyone across Europe. They're now over 13 million premises, so that's 40% of premises in the UK, more than that probably. And they're doing sort of 90,000 a week, of 90,000 premises each week now, which is up from sort of 65,000 a year ago. So they're really accelerating that. So I think it's a matter of time. They're rolling out FTTP now much more quickly than FTTC. If you roll back 10 years and think about that, it's coming really, really quickly. 90,000 premises. Someone said to me last week that 90,000 premises, that's the equivalent of a city the size of Oxford every week. And like, when you put it in that perspective, you think, well, that's pretty impressive. So not everyone's got it now. But at 90,000 a week, it's only going to be a couple of years until 80-90% of the UK is covered. So, and I guess the way OpenReach are doing it is so they're building in a manner that allows them to go really quickly and cover a whole area at a time. So they've got like they try and build a whole city, not one at a time, but multiple cities all at once. We can provide partners with visibility of where OpenReach are hoping to get to in the next 3 months, and where they're hoping to get to up to the next 15 months. They call that their sort of pot of prems in their marketing report. So we can give a view. I guess the pace that they're going, that it's worth noting, not 100% accurate, because they might find some addresses that are a bit easier and do those instead of some that were on the report. But it gives us, we use that for our own direct marketing to go and target areas and sign customers up. And with that information is available to partners, we can share that so that you can target the right areas. In terms of, I guess, from our direct business, we FTTP is where we're seeing the growth. We're seeing, I think it's around 70% of customers that can get FTTP have already taken it. So we think it is the opportunity. It can be difficult, I guess, to encourage someone to switch from FTTC to Sayle on it's a like for like. So winning that business is tougher than if you can go to them and say, we can double, triple, quadruple your speeds. There's something different that you can do to win, and so it makes it an easier win. So I'd say it's coming fast, and we can help you target the right customers by providing you with the data.
I think just on the take-up, so just a bit of a stat for you. So I think in our direct business, 70% of our orders now are FTTP, 30% is Sayle, FTTC, etc. So it's a lion's share of what we're selling, on a kind of weekly, monthly basis.
Okay.
So we're certainly seeing demand.
So patience required, but it's coming soon. If availability is a struggle.
Yeah, and I think just lastly, sorry, Nick, just to quickly add, I think competition's been great there, because I think the competition from the altnets, the announcements from Virgin, all it does is reinforce OpenReach and make them even more determined to roll the network out even faster. So I actually think that's a good example where competition's really helped the rollout. I think that they'll be forced to kind of not let up because they don't want to lose market share to the altnets and Virgin. So.
Okay, great. Well, we're coming to the end of the session now. I suppose I didn't want to let you kind of end, Steve, by mentioning you got your hands dirty a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, you talked about our kind of our B Corp work and your role in the environmental steering group here at Zen. Tell the audience about what we've been up to the last few weeks.
Yeah, so I'm absolutely delighted to say that you'll have heard me talk, I think, at the partner event about planting some trees, and actually at the partner event itself, we agreed to plant a tree for everyone that attended. So I think we had 100 attendees on the day. So myself and Andy actually we were over in Bridlington, which is on the east coast, kind of near Hull. It's not that near Hull, but yeah, that side of the country. Last week, and we actually went out and planted over 1,000 trees. So that was in partnership with Karma Earth, who we use for our sort of tree planting partner. And it was a brilliant day. I mean, I've got to say, anybody that's aware of any schemes locally within your local area that are doing some tree planting, I'd really encourage you to go out and get out there, spending a day out in the great outdoors, getting your hands dirty, getting some trees in the ground, doing your bit for the environment. It was a really fantastic, rewarding day out. Yeah, absolutely loved it. I don't know what you thought, Andy.
Yeah, it was really good fun. Nice distraction from the normal day to day, as well as doing something good, and also I guess a really good like team building activity. So we all broke into little teams and planted trees with our teams, and we were working with people you know, but you don't really work with on a day-to-day basis. That was just great from a team building perspective as well. So,
yeah, and it sits squarely within our kind of, with our B Corp certification, it sits squarely within our kind of our ethics and values. So that's good to hear. And I saw only this week that one of our partners has been through the accreditation recently and has become a B Corp in the last few weeks. So that's great to see too.
Fantastic.
Okay, well. Thanks for your time this morning, gents. There's a number of questions we've not got to. We'll, of course, get those answered and out and shared, as well as the recording. What's really important, of course, is you provide feedback. As I said at the top, this is our first of what will be a quarterly session. I will vary my sock colour based on some of the comments I've had through on here. So thank you for that anonymous question that was posted. But, of course, your feedback is absolutely critical. Whilst We've talked a lot about portfolio today and the price increases. We'll always keep it topical, but your feedback is key into shaping how we do these things. It's about creating value. We value your time is really important. So please, when you receive that through in your inboxes, please take a few minutes just to drop your thoughts down, and we'll do our best to make sure that these are as best use of time as possible going forward. So with that said, thank you again both. Thanks to everybody for joining us this morning. And enjoy the rest of your days. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.